Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Kashif Booth podcast. If you're new here, each week I sit down with a guest and we discuss their career so far, the highs, the lows, and what's next for them. Today's guest is Winnie Arhin. She is a writer, actress, and creative director slash founder of the Writers Corner. Welcome to the show, Winnie.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm so happy to have you on the show. We were just saying before we press record, like it's been years, but I've been seeing all the stuff you've been doing. So when you social media makes you feel like you're still connected to somebody, even though you haven't seen them for a long time. Do you know?
100%. And the thing is,
Yeah.
every time I see your things on Twitter, I'm like,
Uh-huh.
yes, yes. Like, when you're just like,
Yeah.
it's amazing to see people's progress
Yes.
and to see people
Mhm.
just doing their thing and putting their stuff out there.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
show you as
Same.
well.
Same to you as well. Like what you've been doing with the Writers Corner is amazing, and we'll get into that anyway. But it's just like I think it's just so good to see people just this industry is tough. So it's so good just to see people continuously doing
Mhm.
it. Listen, being a creative is not for the faint-hearted. Okay? Yeah. We can get into
Get into
that.
that as well.
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
Get into
good.
that as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, Winnie, we've known each other for a long time, as we said, and like I was thinking because I interviewed somebody else who's also in that film I did with you called Black Girl Magic. Do you
Oh,
remember the
yes.
monologue? Yes.
Of course.
No, I
Even
completely.
it was only about a
Mhm.
week, maybe about a month ago. A
Uh-huh.
colleague of mine was like, "I saw Black Girl Magic on YouTube and you were in it," and I was like, "What?"
Stop it. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, look at that. I didn't even know it was still making the rounds like that.
Mhm.
It's been like 6 years since that came out, which is insane to say. And that's one of my favorite projects. I loved that. And it was written by this great like writer poets in Texas, actually, like a husband and wife couple, actually. And I just reached out to them to see if they could, work for me or something, and that's what blossomed out of it. So really happy with that. So yeah, so let's go right to beginning. Tell me about you. How did you get started as an actress or within a creative within this industry?
Ooh, where do I it's a lot.
Mhm,
Where did I start? So to be honest, I always knew that acting and being creative was what I wanted to do. It's just I didn't know that that was a job. So, for
mhm,
example, in school, I did every school play.
mhm,
Every Christmas, I was in that Christmas show. If somebody dropped
mhm.
out, I was one to be like, I'll say their lines. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Yeah,
Goodbye
yeah,
to
yeah.
that person.
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that's something I always knew I wanted.
Hmm.
And then when I got to, I think it was about 16 or 17, I got into National Youth Theatre, and that started, I think, no, even that before then, I went to Mount View Academy of, I think it's Theatre Arts. Is that the full name?
Yes, I think so. Yes, yes, yes.
And when it was based in Wood Green in North
Hmm.
London. And I went to their Saturday classes, which was like a whole new world for me. And then when I got into National Youth Theatre, it was obviously a bigger scale for a longer period of time. And I was like, oh, like people do this for a job. And I feel like, yes, that was my, I guess you could say my stepping into something that I've always been really passionate about and taking it a bit more seriously.
I think that's really good. And I like to hear that. And it's a common thread that I've had when I'm interviewing actors this season. It has all started majority of the time from when they were a child. It's something that, you fall into, but you find your passion and what's the, like, it's corny to say, but what you're supposed to do, at such a young age, especially as a creative, once you fall into it, you somehow find that way back. So it's really good to hear your journey. So from going to from Mount View, and going to the National Youth Theatre, like what happened next?
If I'm being honest, what
Mhm,
happened next was
mhm,
I was about to finish my A levels.
mhm.
I said to my traditional family, I would like to take a gap year to pursue acting. And they said, absolutely not.
Mhm,
That's not what we do in this family. You
mhm.
go to university. And I was like, okay. So I went to I went to study media
Mhm.
and English at
Okay.
University of the West of England in
Mhm.
Bristol. And
Okay.
actually, you know what? It was the right decision for me at the time. I
Mm.
absolutely loved it. I adored
Okay.
it. I learned
Mhm.
so much. And
Mhm.
I was in the drama society
Mhm.
at university. Now that was my sort of connection
Mhm.
still to doing it. And I also
Okay.
joined an extras agency. which actually I forgot about until it just came out of my mouth there. Yeah, I joined an extras agency. You can see me in Casualty episode, something, something in the
Mhm.
background at a party doing this. And so that was me, as I said, keeping in it. And
Mhm.
then when I graduated from uni, I was working for a magazine, and it was a weird thing because I was working for a magazine part-time, like voluntary
Mhm.
position, and I was working full-time in retail.
Wow.
1 month turned into 2 months, turned into, I think, I won't say how long I worked in retail altogether. I won't expose myself that way. But at that time, I was
Mhm.
like, oh, it's been like a year and a half.
Mm. Wow.
And I'm in a job I despise. And you know what? I love the people. It's just the job itself was not feeding me in
Mhm.
any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was one of my good friends I was talking to, and I just broke down crying. And she was like, we were eating, and all of a sudden I was crying. She was like, what's wrong? She was like, I
Mm.
hate my job.
Wow.
I hate my job.
Mm.
What
Mm.
am I doing here? Like, what? And then she was like, yeah, what are you doing? And it was one of those moments I was like, okay. And she was like, what do you want to do? I was like, I want to apply for drama school. Um, at that time, I had done like I've always done drama classes. As I said, I've done Mount View, I've done National Youth Theatre, I did Identity. I've always done drama classes.
Mhm.
But I was like, you know what? What would it be like if I was in a full-time course?
Mm.
Um, I know education may not be for everybody, or that form, that structure may not be for everybody, but it was something that I was like, I want to pursue it. And the
Mhm.
magazine I was working for, I got speaking to one of the people that worked there, and she used to be an actress, and she went through the whole drama school circuit, as I call it. And she was like, I was speaking to her about like me thinking of going into the audition rounds. And for people that don't know, drama school normally have multiple rounds before you get an answer of yay or nay. And for me, I was like, I was so green. I was like, rounds, what?
Mm.
Oh, you have to pay for the audition or the application, I should say. What? Oh, you have to prepare multiple monologues. It was just all a whole new thing for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I had this person who I worked with who was like, you know what? I'm going to take you under my wing. I'll never forget her, Louise Bromby. If you're watching, shout out to you. She just really helped me during a time where I was like, as I said, I wasn't happy at work. I was a bit stuck, if I'm being honest. And I kind of figured out what my next step was, but I was like, how do I take it? And
Mhm.
she's the one that said, oh, why don't you have a look at this play? Oh, you know what? Why don't we practice that bit over again? Because I could tell you're not really feeling it. Let's find that click.
Mhm.
So through that, I got a couple of recalls. Um, Definitely learned the hard way about how nerves and
Mm.
anxiety can affect your performance when you're faced with, I call them the judges in the room.
Mhm.
Um, and after, I think it was my second year of auditioning, and one of my best friends said, "Oh, Winnie, there's a foundation course at Rose Bruford for acting." And I was like, "Oh, okay, let's get into that." And I was applying for the bursary position because, if I'm being honest, I
Mhm.
couldn't afford the course without it. Government funding couldn't cover it. And also I had had a degree before. So I
Mhm.
couldn't, this was before, like, now they have loads of not loads, but some help for people that are doing another degree and whatnot. But back then it was like, you are
Mm.
by yourself. You did your
Mm.
3 4 years. That's your business.
Yes.
We're done with you. We tried to help
Mhm.
you. That's it.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
was like, oh
Yeah.
gosh, like, and I
Mm.
was like, I can't take a career development loan. I looked into all these things. I was like, no, I just not going to work for me.
Wow.
Then I saw the bursary position at Rose
Mhm.
Bruford for that foundation course. I applied. I got the partial scholarship, and I unfortunately couldn't make the rest of the money up,
Mm.
which is a real moment for me where I was like, I remember you mentioning about, you know, before we started talking
Mhm.
here about the highs and lows of acting and the industry, and that was definitely a low for me. Being like, I got into the course that I have been working my butt off to get into over the last year, and I can't afford to go.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember I had to call the principal up, and I cried down the phone to her. I was like, it's just not going to happen. You know, it was so devastating
Mm,
for me. And I think anybody that's auditioning or applying and you just want it so badly,
yeah.
and it's like you got the taste in your mouth,
Mm,
and then it's like, actually, no, you got to spit that apple out because you can't afford it.
yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that was definitely a moment where I was like, oh wow, like the industry isn't fair.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. It really isn't. It really isn't. And it's, you prevailed though. You prevailed, but it
Yes,
just
yes.
shows you that you have to. The thing is, as a creative, you're gonna go through those low points, and these are that
Mm.
was like the early points for you. I would say. Correct me if I'm wrong about the amount of rejection you have to learn
Ooh,
how to accept. You know,
yes.
and so how did you like get through that? What was next?
So if I'll be honest, there
Mm,
was a lot of tears. I'm not going to pretend that I just dusted off my shoulders after that day. There was a lot of tears. And during that following year, I through a lot of support from some very good friends and actually my acting mentor who I spoke about before, who took me
mhm,
under my her wing, she and my friends basically and my family just held me up. I'm like,
mhm,
you could do this. And I applied again to the course the following year. I got the full bursary position. And that was my start of, I guess you could say, formal education
yeah, yeah, yeah.
into acting. And that
Mhm,
was the acting foundation course at Rose Bruford, um, which was, I describe it as exactly what I needed at the time, like the sort of cherry on top. I think rewind, I think with acting or generally with creative jobs, maybe people could say any jobs actually, you can always sprinkle something extra onto the ice cream,
yeah.
as I like to say. But for me at that moment, I was like, oh, I did the course. And then I was thinking when I started the course, I can either go into a 3-year course afterwards, which would be my own money, trying to figure that out,
Mm,
or I can go straight into the industry. And after doing the course and after speaking to like my tutors and whatnot, they were like, Winnie, we think you're ready to go straight into the industry. And I was
mhm,
like, you know what? Even though I'm feeling anxious, I think I am. And it's a very long story, but I got signed by an agent about maybe a couple, 2, 3 months after I
that's
left
good.
Rose Bruford, which
Mm,
it was a whirlwind, and I'm very grateful for. And then that was, I guess, my official helping hand
right.
to
Mhm,
like the first time I had an agent. Actually, that's
mm,
the lie. I had an agent as a kid, but it was very different child acting to like
yeah, yeah,
grown.
yeah.
Like you want to make this your bread and butter,
Hmm.
and you want to level up. Yeah, it was definitely my like rah. This
Right.
is it. We're
Yeah,
getting in,
yeah, yeah.
and I'm going to be for
Hmm.
real about this. And I'm going to
Hmm.
take it seriously.
Right, right. So you said that how your parents were supportive of you, your family. So what made them decide that okay to support you in this chapter of your life after uni? What was that conversation like?
Very good question.
Hmm.
Um, there was a lot of coming from a very traditional West African household. There was a lot of my family or my parents' generation, I should say, don't understand the creative world we live in.
Hmm.
So at first, there was a lot of like, you haven't been working in like 6 months, huh? And you have a 2-day short film. And what? Excuse you? Oh, you did a day in a show and it was a profit share. And the thing is, when you explain
Uh,
to people that aren't
yeah,
from this world,
yeah.
they're like, so the show made £100 and you split that between 5 of you, but you've been rehearsing for 3 weeks and you had costume and dip to pay for, and you're like, shh.
Yeah, enough. I already know. Okay.
I know, okay, I get it.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I think there was a whole thing of they just
Hmm.
weren't from a lot of my family weren't from the
Yeah.
industry and didn't
Hmm.
understand it. And to be honest, I was still figuring stuff out too.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
didn't know how to defend some of my artistic choices. I'll be honest.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Mhm.
remember the first time I went to Fringe and my mum was like, "Oh my gosh, you're there for a week. How much are you making?" And I was like, "Oh, they're just covering our like transport and accommodation." And she was like, "What?" So, and I was like, "No, that's a big deal in Fringe. Like, that's a really," and it's just like, "So you don't have a salary?" And I was like, that would be correct, technically. So there was definitely a back and forth of
Yeah.
me teaching them
Mm-hmm.
and also me learning how the industry works, but
Yeah.
also me
Yeah.
learning how to communicate. Like, sometimes, you know what, I haven't figured out this part yet, and to not feel so um frustrated or defensive that like things haven't happened as quickly as I
Mm-hmm.
would have liked. As many actors probably feel the same way. Like
Mm-hmm.
you want that big break, you want that juicy part, and many of us that's not the case. Like they say, 2% of actors are working full time in acting. The 98% of us, we have multiple jobs and we're grinding, and a lot of it isn't glamorous.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless maybe you have a situation where people be like, I'll look after you until you get your break,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is an incredible situation to be in. But for
Mm-hmm.
me, that wasn't the case. Um, and to answer your question originally, my family took a while to get their head around, but then they understood my passion, they understood my drive. Don't get me wrong, there's a couple of aunties and uncles who,
Yeah.
my eyes,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, who, they're never gonna get it, and I
Mm-hmm.
understand.
Mm-hmm.
Different
Mm-hmm.
generation, different world,
Yeah.
different lifestyle. I get it. I like the world of acting is turbulent and unpredictable, and one minute your face can be on a poster on a huge show, the next you ain't working for a year. So I
Mm-hmm.
understand
Yeah.
why actors feel so sad sometimes, and why
Mm-hmm.
family or friends even might be like rah, like, you sure you
Mm-hmm.
want to keep doing this?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But then they don't understand, like, we live and breathe this industry. Like, we will be upset if we have to do something else. Like, we will probably get fired because we're just so not interested in doing this job. So it's like, it's hard to explain. Like, when you're so
Mm,
passionate about something and that's what you want to do all day, it's just like it's hard to explain to the person who's not creative or doesn't get it, or it's like showing them, like, imagine doing your hobby full time, and even the highs and the lows, you still love it because you don't want to do anything else, so
100%.
that's what it is.
And
Yeah.
I think there's, to go back to like some
Mm-hmm.
people not understanding the creative world we live in. I
Mm-hmm.
remember a friend of mine, she was having, I think it was a birthday party or something, and I'd got down to the final rounds of a huge show. And basically I was like, oh, I may not be able to make it because, if this goes well, I'm hopefully going to be doing this show. And
Mm-hmm.
she was like, oh, but like you could tell them that you're going to start a day later because you're already unavailable. And I was like,
Mm-hmm. No, no, no.
that's not how. And she's, oh, can you take paid holiday? And I was like, not really. Like, I mean, I don't think there's an understudy for my part. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it was that moment where I was like, oh, she just
Mm-hmm.
doesn't get it.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes you have to accept the fact that people, when they're not part of this
Mm-hmm.
sphere and this community, it seems so foreign and so confusing and
Yeah,
so unstable. And
yeah,
so I understand the whole like, huh?
yeah,
What you
yeah.
talk about, Willis? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, exactly. It is so true because in the grand scheme of things, yeah, our industry is weird. It's messed up. Like, there's no real support. Like, unless you're, like you said, in that 2%, we're all struggling. So it is weird. Like, we should be able to take leave and we should be able to do these things, but we can't. It's like when we start a job, we're not going to be saying, oh, yeah, by the way, I've got like a holiday scheduled. So, I can't do this. It's like, they'll be like, oh, okay. And they'll be writing down. So yeah, who was the second best, or somebody like they'll easily
100%.
replace you. Who can be readily available straight away?
Yeah.
That's the thing as well. And it also speaks on, and why quite a lot of actors who've been on the season, they've talked about that work-life balance of where you've sometimes got to also take a break, and it's not saying that you don't want to do it, but you've still got to live your life and try to live it normally like everybody else, like having a child, getting married, or, buying a house, little things like that. No, we're so like go, go, go. We feel like, oh, if I do this, it's gonna slow me down to get from what I need to get to here, there, and everywhere. And it's like, because it's so unstable, it kind of puts us always on edge in every
100%.
aspect. So it's like, yeah, unless you get it or you don't. And it's such it's a hard pill to swallow, you know? So
100%. And I think to go, you touched on something that is so important.
mhm.
I think speaking to a lot of actors, I know this is unfortunately a common thing. We put so much worth into whether we're working or not. Like
Yeah.
that what job we have, or whether it's theatre, TV, screen, like screen in general, our self-worth sometimes is wrapped up in if we are working.
Yeah.
And most of us aren't working. So where that leaves such a horrible, sometimes
Mhm.
dangerous mental space to be in. And I
Mhm.
have to be honest, up until COVID, I was in that, I call it the rabbit wheel. I had like 500 side jobs. I was also trying to get myself out there and work and do a short film here and the theatre show here and build my show reel and all these things. And I remember being like, oh, I kind of ain't worth bleep because I ain't working. And it's
Mm.
just, and then I remember COVID happened and everything stopped. And even though COVID obviously was awful,
Mhm.
and it ruined a lot of people's businesses, and there's so many obviously repercussions. One of the few, I say few, things that I took away from it that changed me for the positive was that, what, work isn't everything.
Mhm.
And I think that's the thing, when you're passionate about what you do, sometimes it doesn't feel like work, but it is work, and you should be able to have a balance in your life. Easier said than done, I know,
Yeah.
but it's like, okay, when was the last time you saw your mama? When was the last time you went to the cinema and just chilled?
Mhm.
When was the
Mhm.
last time you went to the park and read a book?
Yeah.
Not a book about
Yeah.
acting, not a show
Mm.
you're watching this specific actor's accent. Like, you just were chilling and doing your thing and
Mhm.
having fun for yourself. And
Yeah.
that's why I always think it's so important to do things outside of acting and outside of your career that is just for you. It's not to advance anything, just for you to
Mhm.
have respite and chill. And
Yeah.
sometimes that means staying in a onesie in bed watching all these Netflix shows.
Mhm.
And sometimes
Mhm.
it means, I'm going to book a holiday and tell my agent I'm not available on these dates.
Mhm. Mhm.
3 days out of the year, allow
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Let
Yeah.
me be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and as I
Yeah.
said, it's easier said than done. I definitely
Mhm.
know that for sure. But it's something that ever since COVID, balance
Mm.
is extremely, extremely important to me.
Mm.
It keeps me sane, to be blunt.
Yeah, I like that. That's really good. And you just get to that point in your career, you get to it because we're very hungry when we get into this, we want to be here, want to do this, want to do this. And then you kind of get to the realities of the industry. And when you quickly understand about how comparison is the thief of joy and understanding that you're on your own journey as well, that's when you slow down and you're like, okay, what can I do? Now I'm saying it's a work in progress because
Mhm.
there's still days where I'm like, damn, why am I not there? Because it still happens because that's real. But it's a slow and process thing. So, Winnie, you've done a lot of stuff. Like you've done screen, you've done theater. You've worked with Moses Sabandike as well. I've had him on the show as
Yes,
well.
he's incredible. Honestly,
Incredible,
one of
exactly.
the best creative minds I've
Mm,
ever seen. Like,
yes.
my mind blown. And funny enough, the magazine that
Mhm.
I worked for that I
Oh,
mentioned
yeah,
at the
yeah, yeah.
beginning, that's why I met
Oh,
Moses.
wow. Okay,
Yes,
amazing. And he's
yes,
so talented. He's just like going
100%.
from strength to strength. And like, yeah, I can't wait to see what happens with his career because he's just been hustling for so long. And so what was it like for you working with him? Because I know you worked on a short film with him.
Yeah, honestly, Moses is one of the most. There's so many words. I'm just trying to
Mhm.
like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
watching him work and do his thing,
Mm-hmm.
watching him creatively lead, watching him be so collaborative.
Mm.
It's just always a pleasure to work with him. We've
Yeah.
worked with each other a couple of times over the last
Mm-hmm.
couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and each time, not only do I come away learning something,
Mm-hmm.
I feel I feel really like creatively
Yeah.
fulfilled. And
Mm-hmm.
also on the other side, he's a great person to work with.
Yeah, yeah.
I think definitely in this industry, there's certain people that you're like, oh, you're a great creative mind, but
Mm-hmm.
damn, I don't want to sit and have lunch with you. Oh,
Yes, 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 yes,
please.
yes,
But
yes.
Moses just generally is a genuine, authentic,
Mm-hmm,
as I said, creative mind is on point. And then
mm-hmm,
as a person, he's just so much fun to work with. It's very
mm-hmm.
open,
Yeah,
which I
yeah.
think I
Mm-hmm,
understand that for a lot of, not a lot, but some people when they're in this industry, it can really
mm-hmm,
grind them down. So that openness and
mm-hmm.
friendliness and responsiveness
Yeah.
kind of disappears and is replaced with something a lot harder, I guess, maybe to like survive in
Mm-hmm,
this industry
mm-hmm.
that can be very difficult
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
no, somebody that, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
as a filmmaker, as a writer, he's just incredible. And he actually featured work in my most recent Scratch Night that I
Okay.
Scratch Nights, I
Yes,
think we've
yes.
spoken about before.
Mm-hmm,
And once seeing him as a writer, seeing
mm-hmm.
him as actually performed in it as well. He's just incredible.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's no other word to say. He's incredible. He's truly
Yes.
what I call like a multifaceted like artist.
Yes, he is. He
Mm.
is. And he's good at everything. You know,
Yes.
'cause there's a lot of people out there who are multi-hyphenates and they say, oh, I do this, this, and it's like you're good at one thing and the rest is lacking. But it's very rare to find, and there's quite a few as well. Like there's this writer director I worked with called Serafina Mattis, incredibly talented writer, director, producer, editor, like, and all of her sisters are like that too. And I'm just like, what is going on in this gene pool of here? Like they're so incredibly talented and
Mm.
it's crazy. So I totally get that as well. So tell me about like the show Edging that you were in. Like you played, what was it, Madam? Correct me if I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
so
Madam,
that was a show.
Madam Minch, was it?
It was just yes.
What kind of name is that? First of all.
So that piece
hmm
was written by somebody I did the acting foundation course at Rose
Oh,
Bruford,
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it was a pilot sort of
hmm
um, show that he
hmm
wanted to do a longer series,
Okay.
obviously TV series,
hmm
um, and that I have to admit was like a sort of like I've never played that type of character before. Just somebody so I'm trying to find the right words. Okay, I'm gonna set the scene.
Okay.
COVID.
hmm
Things have just sort of lightened up. The world is opening up slightly. So
Okay.
that was like a weird like
Mhm.
moment of we're all at home in our tracksuit bottoms
Yeah,
and
yeah,
getting
yeah.
out there.
Okay, okay.
And doing something, it was definitely a comedy.
Mm,
Definitely obviously had some moments where people may be like, oh, that was quite thought-provoking. But I think getting to play somebody just so out there, you could tell by
mhm,
the name, and to
mm,
be part of a group of people who are giving so much
yeah, yeah.
as actors, like
hmm
you are feeding off of so much they're giving you. There's
hmm
a lovely back and forth.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely one of the things I took back from there, especially as I said,
Okay.
coming just out of like the
Yeah.
lockdown life and
hmm
whatnot,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
being like
yeah.
I've been with my mum and sister for months and being with a group of people, and
Mm-hmm.
from the cameraman to the actors to the
hmm
director, there was just this sense of we got each other,
Yeah.
and also it's okay to try new things, and
Yeah.
it was a small part in a big cog, I guess you could say. But I felt like we all like nobody was spoken down to. It was like, oh, you only have this many. We don't
Love it.
really care
Love
about
it.
you. But we were
hmm
all equally
Okay.
respected
hmm
and looked after, which
hmm
I think unfortunately sometimes isn't always the case.
Yeah. It's
I'm trying to
true.
be
It's
politically
true.
correct, but you know what I mean. It's
You
not
know,
like,
it's very, very true. Very,
yeah.
very true.
Mm.
Listen, as far as I'm concerned, whether you're the number one on the call sheet or number 56 on the call sheet, everyone should be treated with the same level of respect. That's just how it is. We're all human at the end of the day. Just because you're celebrity or whatever doesn't mean, yeah. So that's cool. And tell me about the TV movie that you were in called, what was it? Sections? Yes.
Sections,
Yes, yes,
yes.
yes.
That was funny enough. Once again, that was just I think just after COVID, that like the
hmm
first lockdown had
Okay.
finished,
Yes,
and
yes,
we
yes.
were back in action. And
She's
then
out to help out.
yeah. And then literally 3 months later, we all spent Christmas at home crying because we were in
Okay.
a lockdown. But
Mhm.
yeah, so that was my first ever experience of a grand, like multiple things happening,
Okay.
like a show.
Was it
So
multicam as well? Do you
yeah,
mean as well?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
It was,
Mm,
I had never experienced anything like that before.
okay.
It
Mm-hmm.
was, it taught me a lot.
Okay.
Sure. So Sections is basically a show that is all about these young people and their mental health issues. It's based on a mental health ward.
Okay.
And it's, I think
Mm-hmm.
it was like 16 to 21 or something like that. I can't remember the exact age, but young people with different mental health issues and their journeys. And I
Mm-hmm.
played one of the, I guess you could say one of the um not nurses, but one of the people that carers that looks after them.
Okay.
And there was so many moments in there where, you know, when you're watching people do their thing and you're like, this is a masterclass.
Wow.
I'm learning so many, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really interesting. I think being able to obviously perform with people, once again, I say they can give you a good back and forth,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
being able to
yeah.
sit at the side and watch people
Mm-hmm.
get into it and get
Mm-hmm.
out of it. Watching
Yeah.
a director, Darren Rapier was the director of that, and his attention to detail, his support. He's written for EastEnders, and I think it's Casualty or Holby City. I can't remember, one of them as well. He's been in the game for years. He is a teacher, a writer, just a general creative and director, of course, as I said before. Being able to work under somebody who not only really has that experience, but also is
Mm.
willing to share it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It 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 made originally an experience that I was quite intimidated by. I instantly felt like, oh, I can breathe.
Okay.
Or like if I make a mistake, nobody's going to throw like a camera at me, you know?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Mm-hmm.
And also working with different actors in different stages of their careers
Mm-hmm.
and seeing them do their thing. I
Mm-hmm.
also felt like, oh wow, like I felt like I think there was a moment where I literally sat down with a notepad. I was making notes on things that I was picking up from things like certain from things like blocking
Okay.
to
Mm.
things like timings,
Mm.
things
Okay.
like um when to take your time over something, or whether it's a facial expression
Mm-hmm.
or a
Mm-hmm.
sentence,
Mm-hmm.
rather than Lego. Because I think sometimes I have a strong theatre background. I think with the theatre live, it's so live and so electrifying. And then with screen, personally, I feel that you have to draw some things back and
Yes.
some things need to be
Yes,
just
you
a bit
do.
subtler,
Yeah.
very subtle, obviously, depending on what the director
Mm-hmm.
wants.
Mm.
And I think that was one of the things that helped me really, number one, trust my instincts, and number two, as I said, like watch other people and really feed off of them.
Mm-hmm.
Because if someone's giving you this type of vibe, you can't come with them like it's just a bit
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
oh my gosh,
Yeah. Yeah.
what are you doing?
Mm.
Time out.
True, it's true.
So I definitely think,
Mm-hmm.
yes, it taught me about subtlety
Okay.
of being on camera, but
Mm-hmm.
also on location.
Right.
Like I have done some things where you're like using a friend's house, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Or
yeah.
which I get it, I've done it.
Mhm.
You've got to do what you got to do. But it was my first time being like, for example, they rented out a space.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Big budget, basically, like a big
cameras were
full
like,
on
whoa,
production. Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. It
Yeah.
was, and it was just like, oh wow, you know, I'd done commercials before, but this was the first time doing something where it's like the words are really sudden.
Hmm.
So
Mm.
it's
Yeah, I
amazing.
love that. I love that. And what was it like for you working with multicam? Because that's people are so used to single cam and it can be sometimes overwhelming. Like, what was that like for you?
I learned the meaning of attention to detail
Okay.
when things like, okay, you can't, for example, we all had security badges as like the actors,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like one, you're talking here, and then they change angles, and people are like, oh, like you were 2 steps that way, and like your badge is now flipped. Just
Mhm.
stuff like that
Mhm. Mm.
for me was a new thing. And I think also in like a non I don't know what the word is, maybe materialistic, I don't know what the word is, or like one dimensional type of way, just learning,
Mhm.
okay, you're with multiple people, you're performing, there's multiple cameras,
Mhm.
the angles to hit.
Mhm.
And also to know like, oh, someone's about to step into that bit in two
Yeah.
seconds. This ain't your
Mm.
time. Move back.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
Think,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
I said, with theatre, the whole like if you could say the theatre, there's cameras on every angle.
Mhm. Yeah.
And when you're in on location, especially in tight spaces,
Mhm. Mhm.
no, you can't be taking 6 steps to make a speech.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Cut that out, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And it was a
Yeah.
real is a thing, specifically like space,
Mhm.
and as I said, attention to detail. That
Okay.
for me was definitely something,
Mhm.
especially doing multiple takes
Mm.
over and
Mm.
over and over again,
Okay.
and having that same energy, and having, and sometimes running
Mhm.
certain things the same, because the director's like, I really like that, don't change that.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
like, okay,
Okay.
oh my God,
Mm.
okay, I
Mm.
got this. I think I
Yeah.
got this.
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah.
got this. I got this.
That's so interesting because I've not done multicam. I've only ever done single cam. So to know that there's all these different intricate parts, what are part of it is very interesting. So I'm looking forward to doing that one day. I've done like in studio shoots, where it's like you've got a gallery room and it's like you got a director in-house there telling all the different camera operators like at the studio or live, oh yeah, this cut to this angle and directing them like that. But it's so different because that was more of like factual and like a talk show, but in scripted it's so different. So that's good to hear your experience as well. So you've touched on theater a bit as well. So I know you're more of a theater actress. I love what you've been doing with the Writers' Corner as well. So we can get into that. And you've said that you mentioned as well that, you've been doing a lot of scratch nights. So do you prefer theater to screen or what would
Yeah,
you say?
it's so I find that a really hard question,
Mm-hmm.
because with theatre, getting to perform live,
Mm-hmm.
getting to perform in an ensemble in that type of environment is at like one of the most electrifying, but
Mm-hmm.
also humbling, but
Mm-hmm.
also you just learn so much.
Right. Yeah.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think get having a live audience to sort of spar with at times, or
Mm-hmm.
even sometimes bring them into that journey
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
of that character,
Yeah.
is absolutely stunning.
Right.
I love, love, love this. I don't think I'm ever gonna not love it.
Yeah.
Especially new writing. That's something that I'm very, very passionate about. But then
Mm-hmm.
on the other side, with screen, specifically with TV,
Mm-hmm.
getting the chance to work with a character over a period of time, to see
Mm-hmm.
their highs and lows, to see them in different times of their life,
Mm-hmm.
is something that I have yet to do, but I would.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that fills me with so much joy and excitement,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
especially to, for example, to be a part of a series where your character is in this specific box or this specific situation, and then maybe by the end of the series, or by the end of, or whatever the arc, they're
Yeah.
in a different situation. Like maybe it's a simple thing of they used to be the hero and now they're the villain.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you were,
Exactly. Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. Maybe you were Iron Man. Now you're Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
It could
Yeah.
even that,
Mm-hmm.
or a thing of like, what? They were someone that people despised,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
couldn't relate to. What the hell are you doing? And by the end, you're like, kind of get you, kind of get you. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to admit it to my friends.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
kind of get you. Oh, I'm learning
Mm-hmm.
something new. So yes, with theatre, live performances is always going to be something that is going to
Mm-hmm.
be incredibly interesting to me and fulfilling. But then
Mm-hmm.
also with screen, doing something, as I said, long term with a
Mm-hmm.
character, and as I said, really getting to like even sitting there with the director being like, "Where's this character going to go? You're going to tell
Yeah.
me," and the
Yeah.
writer
Yeah.
being like, "You have no idea." And I'm like, "Oh,
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
what? You ain't
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
tell me?
Yeah.
You just gonna leave me like
Yes.
that?"
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, I definitely
Mm-hmm.
think they hit different parts of
Yeah.
my heart. I'll definitely
I
say
love
that.
that. I love that. Because I like the point what you said about where the writer and director won't tell you like what's gonna happen next. It reminds me of Scandal. I remember years ago. If you ever watched Scandal with Kerry
Yes, I
Washington,
have. Yeah.
do you remember that moment, the season 2 finale where she got into the car and she was like, Dad, because she was shocked that it was like him. You know, they did, nobody knew. Like only he
What?
knew. Yes, I remember reading this, like Kerry Washington didn't know. Nobody knew until they shot that scene. So could you imagine like you're acting, but it's like, it's to add that extra value of shock to the cast as
Mm,
well is great. And that's one thing what's great about writing for a screen. You can get away with that, With theatre, you can't really, but theatre, I
yeah,
love
you.
theatre.
Mm,
And I want to get into it more actually because I'm fascinated by it. And I just think it's such two different mediums, but such great
for sure.
storytelling in their own ways. So yeah, that's what I love about it.
Sorry, you've just reminded me.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm not sure if you've ever watched the Game of Thrones final table read ever.
No, but I remember
And
seeing it go viral. Yeah.
so obviously, spoiler alert, if you have not watched Game of Thrones, the last ever episode,
Uh-huh.
pause, skip this bit. So there's a bit where Kit Harington, who played one of the main characters, for people that don't know, was doing the table read with all his
Hmm.
fellow actors, and he did not know that he was the person to kill Daenerys.
Hmm.
You could see him reading it, and the stage directions are being read, but I think it
Hmm.
was the director, and
Hmm.
his face, because and it was
Yeah.
imagine at the beginning of the series he was in love with her, that was his boo, and then
Mm.
at the end he's the one that sticks the dagger in the heart.
Yeah.
So I think even that, like,
Hmm.
being a part of something that like where you get to really be on a journey,
Yeah.
and also
Mhm.
playing somebody that's so different from your own, I think is very
Mm.
interesting.
Yeah.
Very
I
interesting.
think so as
But
well.
I always say, to go back to what you said,
Hmm.
love theatre, come to the theatre side, jump into the screen side. I still feel like everybody, let's do it. Let's do everything.
Yes,
Let's
exactly, exactly. You can't be pigeonholed as a creative. I feel like you've been
exactly
saying, you need to be making multiple streams of income, and if it can be within the creative industry, that's an icing on the cake.
100%, 100%.
Exactly. So we've touched on it for a bit, but why did you start the Writers' Corner? I'm so excited to hear this because you've done such amazing things with your scratch nights and showcasing so many upcoming writers and diverse storytelling and diverse writers from so many different backgrounds. So yeah, why did you do that?
During, I feel like I keep bringing this up, but it's so relevant to my creative journey.
Mm-hmm.
During the second lockdown, I all these theatres were basically like,
Mm-hmm.
don't know when we're gonna put on new writing, like new
Okay.
full shows, because they
Mm-hmm.
cancel all people's work, all different shows from
Mm-hmm.
like the year before. They said they had
Okay.
a backlog.
Wow.
I just finished, I had done the Soho Theatre Writers Lab course. I'm not sure if you've heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
Soho Theatre basically um take you through a 3 draft process to create a play.
Okay.
And I had just finished that, and I knew all these writers, and none of us had work to show,
Wow.
none of us. And
Mm-hmm.
I had a life coach at the time, and I was saying how creatively I just feel so sad.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, why don't you do an event or something? I was like, how? What are we supposed to do? And I remember just being so aggy with her. Like, how could you say that to me? Look where we are. Look
Yeah,
where we
yeah.
are. We're trapped at
Mm-hmm.
home. What are you talking about?
Mm.
And after I calmed down, um, and I had just finished watching, and I wish I could remember the name. Royal Court did
Mhm.
a live theatre performance where they had multiple scenes read out by different actors.
Okay, okay.
Um, and it was something that I didn't know I could be that moved
Mhm.
through a Zoom reading, if I'm being honest with you. I
Mhm.
didn't know I could be that engrossed. I didn't know it could touch me in
Mhm.
such a profound way.
Right, yeah.
And I was thinking about that a lot. I think
Mhm.
it was Letters to My Best Friend or Black Best. I wish I could remember the name of it. I have
Mhm.
a Google of it in a second. And I remember watching that and just thinking, yeah, this is something absolutely just mind blowing
Mhm.
and beautiful and stunning. And I was like, can I do something like that? And I had, as I said, I knew loads of writers that had work and nowhere to show it. So I said, you know what? I'll run an online scratch night through Zoom. I'll sell tickets through Eventbrite. And I remember saying to my life coach at the time, oh, like I need to find somebody to do this with me, to help me do it. And she was like, why do you need somebody else to do it with you? And I was like, I can't do this by myself. That's not in my toolbox.
Mm.
And she said, try it. I said, you know what, I ain't got nothing else to do. So
Mhm.
I remember speaking to some writers, being like, I'm really loved reading your stories. Would you be up for showing 10, 15 minutes of it? Cool.
Mhm.
Some people were writing performers. So some of them were like, I'm going to perform my own work. And then
Okay.
some people were saying, oh, I would like us to look for other actors. It's like,
Okay.
do you know actors? I was like, actors? It's out of work. So
Mhm.
got in contact with some people. I was like, shared spotlights with the writers. And this is
Mhm.
something I've been quite consistent on from the beginning. I leave it up to my writers to decide their creative paths on how they want to show their work, from their casting to their editing. Like it was up
Mhm.
to them.
Mhm.
Now, if you said I need help, I will jump on that ship so quickly. But I didn't ever want to like step on other people's toes
Yeah.
or like take
Mhm.
over their artistic vision.
Yeah.
I wanted to do something creative and give platform
Mhm.
to people that I know are as frustrated as I was, to be
Mhm.
honest.
Mhm.
So at first it was a Zoom showing with three other writers. We all showed about 10, 15 minutes of work. It was pre-recorded and I edited it together like a
Mhm.
film. And then I live hosted it in between like the
Mm.
takes, I guess you could say. I would
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
introduce pieces, tell you about the writers, tell you about the actors.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then I created like the promo for it, the program, all of these
Mhm.
things. And then I was just like, okay, done it. Like that was lovely. That's done. And then from that, I can't remember if I said it or I was reading another piece and it gave me inspiration. I can't remember what way it happened. But I remember going, I want to run another night.
Mhm.
So I ran a second night. And then the second night, I was like, oh, like I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed bringing people together. I really enjoyed making people, to be honest, I was really and still am a person that I want work to reflect our ever-changing society.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
want the writers, actors, all these people behind the scenes and in front of the camera, I guess you could say as well in this situation, to be diverse. And I use that word very carefully because I sometimes feel people can be diverse for a season
Yeah.
and then it goes. And
Mhm.
it's like, what did, for
Yeah.
example, all these marginalized communities just disappear? We're not, the global majority, we just popped off. Is that it?
Mhm. Mhm.
In
Mhm.
October, Black History Month, I see a lot. And then November, December, you forget us. Like, what
Mhm.
happened?
Mhm.
Same with Pride
Mhm.
Month, the rainbows and the colorful
Mhm.
promo comes
Mhm.
out, and I'm like, okay, and then it disappears as soon as Pride is over. And I was like, I really don't like that.
Yeah.
And I'm really passionate about giving emerging creators a chance to test out their work, hopefully in
Mhm.
an environment they feel safe in, but also people from different communities, whether you're protected characteristic or global majority, or a person that's from a low income household where you're like, you know what, I've got all these ideas, but I
Yeah.
don't have the money to hire
Mhm.
out a cameraman, to hire out lighting, all these things.
Yeah.
I'm like, you
Yeah.
know what? If you want to test out something, try this out, try my platform.
Mhm.
And as I said, it was supposed to be one event and then it turned
Mhm.
into two events. And then as I kept doing them, I was like, I love a theme, I'll be honest with you. So, for example, I've done a night celebrating writer performers. I've done a night celebrating writers over 40. I've done a night celebrating Black women's stories about sex and sensuality,
Mm.
which was extremely important to me. Um, and it was through all of those things, I was just like, yeah, I love giving a platform to people that may not have had
Yeah.
the same privileges as certain other people have, or maybe
Mhm.
not have the financial stability that certain people have. And be like,
Mhm.
no, you can
Mhm.
still do your thing.
Mhm.
And as I said, I hope that they feel safe and also creatively challenged
Mm-hmm.
to be like, you know what, I am going to test that out.
Yeah.
Like, I have a character idea. I want to do
Mm-hmm.
that. I have a
Mm-hmm.
couple of lines from this monologue. Let's see how that lands.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me,
Mm-hmm.
it's all about people testing out work rather than having some polished, beautiful piece and then you get signed straight away and boom, boom, amazing. I mean, don't get me wrong, if that happens, amazing.
Of
But
course, yeah.
there needs to be a draft process
Yeah.
of some kind. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like scratch nights can help with that.
Yeah. I love what you've built and I love what you're doing. I think it's so important, just like what I'm doing here. Like I said to you off camera, I love giving people a platform. And what you're doing is giving people a platform, and it's just going to help so many people because they don't always get that opportunity to be able to do that. There's so many, like, scratch nights out there for like those really big ones, for example, like big theater companies and etc. But there's only like this amount of people who are actually getting chosen. And like it's just like when you're applying for public funding, it's like playing national lottery. You
100%.
never know what's gonna happen. And so for
100%.
you to do that is so, so, so good. So is it still on Zoom or have you been able to do it in person and stuff like that?
So at first it was on Zoom. So
Hmm.
so yes, the first year it was on Zoom, and
Hmm.
then I did my first ever live event a year and a half ago,
Wow.
and it's crazy how things go. So
Hmm.
I went from online Zoom
Hmm.
to my first ever event, which was at the back of a shop in East London. It was a shop called Ace Hackney. Unfortunately, it's not around
Wow.
anymore. It was in Bohemia Markets Place. I'm
Oh
not
yeah, yeah, I know what that is. Yeah,
London
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Yes,
Okay, yeah, yeah,
around
yeah.
the corner of Hackney Central Station for people that don't know.
Hmm.
Um, and I ran it out of the back of a shop that I used to really visit a lot and love. I used to call it my home away from home. I said to
Hmm.
the manager once, "Do you do events here ever? Because the space is lovely." He said
Hmm.
he did, and then that was the start of my live events. And then
Hmm.
from then, I definitely do running events online to in
Hmm.
person was definitely something, a gear change for me, and there was a lot of things I needed to learn
Hmm.
from things like rehearsal time to
Hmm.
things like
Hmm.
situational things that came up, from things like TFL has now closed down the Piccadilly line, and people calling me like, "How am I gonna get here?" And I'm like,
Mm,
"I
mm,
don't
mm,
know."
mm.
And
Listen,
so I went
yeah,
from that to having a collaboration with the Pleasance over the last year, which is
amazing.
it's still like a bit
Mhm. Mm,
for me,
yeah.
even though obviously I've been a part of the whole flow of things, and I'm
Hmm.
a person team at the moment, and I've had definitely help from people, but it is me consistently,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
it.
of course, yeah.
I've had amazing friends and family help
Hmm.
me out, but yes, it is, I guess you could say, late night emails to people, if you know what I mean, or like
Yeah,
me
yeah.
creating the promos on Canva
Hmm.
and all these things, and me filling out that risk assessment, or me getting called being like, what are you going to do for sound and lighting and what staging or what
Hmm.
props do you need?
Hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, going from Zoom to back of a shop to collaborating with the Pleasance has
Hmm.
definitely been an incredible whirlwind.
Hmm.
I've learned a lot,
I'm sure.
the good, the bad, the ugly,
Mm,
uh, of just putting on events and just
yeah,
learning
yeah.
things, because I feel like I'm self-taught in a lot of it. And through that, and it's funny because I didn't realize this at the time, my friend had said like, "Oh, like you really are becoming like an experienced producer, like you're getting yourself." I was
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was
like, "No,
just thinking that.
I'm not a producer. Like, I help other people get their work together, and I help them with the casting, and then I help them sometimes with the financial situations." And then
Hmm.
my friend was like, "Winnie, that's producing." I was like, "No, no, no, you don't get it. I only help out with the marketing, do some social media promotion." And they were like, "Winnie, what are you talking about?" And
Ah,
then
that's so
I was like,
funny.
and also I was like, I did set location or like
Uh-huh.
scouting. That doesn't count. It's like, Yes, it does, girl." I was like,
Oh, that's so funny.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
so
definitely
funny.
something that
Yeah,
I've
yeah, yeah.
been into but really enjoy.
I'm really proud of what you're doing. I see it all the time. I'm always sharing it. Every time I see it, I always share it.
I need to say this.
Oh, so,
No, because you are one
hmm.
of the people who has consistently
Hmm.
supported and shared my work. And also when I do a writer's call out, a casting call out, you're always so I'm very, very grateful for you sharing and liking and just engaging with me that way, because
Mm-hmm.
I understand the grind and hustle and people have so many things going on.
Yes,
So
yes.
you sharing stuff like that really, really means a lot to me. So
You're
I really want to say
welcome.
thank you
Mm-hmm.
for always being like that. And you've always been like that consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, really appreciate you and what you do. From when I first met you all those years ago
Mm-hmm.
till now, you still have that same open, positive, like authentic energy, and I'm all for it. And I just want to say thank you. And
Oh,
even for
thank
this, what
you.
you're creating here
Yeah,
is
yeah.
an amazing thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, really want to give you your flowers because
Thank you so much.
so many
Honestly,
amazing things.
I just feel like I'm rooting for everyone black. That's always number one. But and I just
Issa
want to see
Rae,
everyone win.
quota, everyone black. Yes, yes, yes.
To quote Issa Rae, I'm rooting for everybody black.
Mhm.
So and just to see what you're doing is great. I feel bad that I've not even come, so I need to actually come because the more I want to get into theater and
Mhm.
write, I am writing a bit, so I'm trying to get back into writing as well. So I'm gonna have to start coming because I want to get to. I've been doing that a lot this year, more theater shows, really trying to understand how it works, how people write for shows, how they produce it as well. So that's really exciting. So what's next for you and the Writers' Corner?
I have another event happening
Amazing.
in October, finalizing details at the moment,
Good, good.
which is going to be an event called Loving in Color, Volume 2. I did this event a year ago and it's coming back because it's something that I just really connected with and I felt like my audience really connected with. It's going to be a
Mm,
scratch night
good.
highlighting stories about love and its varying forms,
Mm-hmm,
written by writers from the global majority.
mm-hmm,
So that's what's coming up next in October for me in the Writers' Corner.
mm-hmm.
I also want to come back to my own work as well. I feel like the last 2 years, I've really dedicated myself to helping other writers and creatives get their work
Mm-hmm,
out there and figure out their next move. And I
mm-hmm.
think at times I kind of lost my
I
own
understand. Yeah.
own oomph in that.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
I wrote a play during my time at Soho Theatre Writers Lab course called Big Girl Words, and I really want to work on the next iteration of that. It's a two-hander at the moment, and
Okay.
I want to see what it looks like as a solo show
Okay. Okay.
and play with the form a bit. So that's definitely
Mm,
something I
okay. Mm-hmm.
want to touch upon and see how that goes. And this is the year. I need to stop being scared of this.
Mm-hmm.
I want to apply for funding. I find funding forms very intimidating
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
very,
Yes.
very, it freezes me. I'll be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
But this is
Mm-hmm.
the year I want to put pen to paper and
Mm-hmm.
really get some financial help with my creative dreams.
I feel like you could. I feel like everything you've done with the Writers' Corner and everything, please apply for Arts Council. You'll get it. And I feel like you will
I'm
get it. No,
That's my
you will. Yeah. Yeah,
manifesting
we are.
that.
We said
So
it now here on this platform, so it's
yes,
gonna happen. Okay, it's
yes.
gonna happen because I feel like, and if there's something that could help you out with the Writers' Corner as well, like what you've done by yourself is great, and it's such a powerful platform. So I feel like please do it because I feel like you've been doing this by yourself basically for 4 years or three, what, 3, 4 years
Yeah,
now.
yeah, 3.5 years now.
That is insane. So. Yeah, so for you, you need to, yeah, apply for Arts Council funding, please. Like do that. So
Time,
yeah, so
time for
please,
sure.
please. So where
Yes.
can people find you and the Writers' Corner as well to keep updated on like the shows and more stuff coming up?
So I have a website, the Writers Corner Events, .co.uk. I would hopefully in Instagram you can like
I will
tag
add it. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
stuff.
I'll add all
Thank
of
you
that.
very much. So
Awesome.
we have a website.
Mhm.
We also have social media. I have social media. If you want to find me, I'm Winnie Arhin, WINNIEARHIN. Yes, that surname is Ghanaian. For anybody that's asking. So yes, you can find me on Instagram like that, and it's the same on Twitter like that. The
Yes.
Writers Corner, yes, it's the Writers Corner events. You can find me on um Instagram and on Twitter, it's underscore Writers Corner underscore. And as I said, I have a website, and you'll see me, I'm gonna say in a month and a bit, you'll see the Writers Corner flash up on the Pleasance of like upcoming shows.
Good,
So watch
good.
out for that and please book a ticket.
Mhm.
And you can definitely, if people want to get in touch, I have no problem with people sliding into my DMs. I'm
Mhm.
even like to shoot your shot, do what you got to do. Because if I
Thank
can
you so
help in some way, shape, or form, I would
Mhm.
love to.
Yeah.
Whether it's oh, I'm not sure about this idea, or like, you know what, like can I talk to you about something I have coming up?
Mm.
Feel free to.
Good, good. Well, Winnie, thank you so much for coming on the show. This is the season finale, guys. Like 30 episodes in for this season, which is insane. And I think this was the best way to round out the season. I think this is such a fun conversation just catching up with you, but just knowing so much how all of the work that you put into the Writers' Corner is so great to hear. And I know it's just going to go from strength to strength. So thanks again for coming on the show. And guys, you can follow me all on my socials. You know them. There's a bunch of them. Stay tuned for season 4 coming very soon.